It's always interesting when professional basketball players, professional players of any sport, are actually honest about some of the controversial stuff that's being pushed out there. We know the narrative from the woke mainstream sports media about transgender athletes competing in women's sports. We've seen it pushed over the past several years because, again, it fits the narrative. We see people like Leah Thomas. We see these different incidents in volleyball. We talked about that high school volleyball match where a person who was born a man but is competing in female high school volleyball injured an actual biological female because once again there are differences between people who are born men and born women. That is undeniable. That is the reality. And now Matt Barnes, when asked a question about transgender athletes playing in the WNBA, gave a very frank answer that some people are going to be extremely upset about, but it's refreshing to hear something like this. Former Laker Matt Barnes opposes transgender athletes playing in the WNBA. Former Lakers forward player Matt Barnes says he supports people who want to be transgender, but he does not think transgender, quote, women should play among the natural-born women of the WNBA. Barnes, who had a 15-year NBA career, says athletes should only play in the gender category of their birth. I want to listen to this because it's a conversation that quite frankly, you don't hear often in the mainstream media right now. You don't hear them speaking quite as upfront and honest about things like this. Say, what if Kevin Durant put on a wig? Examples like that. But let's get into it here from Vlad TV and Matt Barnes.
What do you think about trans players potentially playing for the WNBA? Do you think that'll potentially change it, or do you think
I think I think if and this is a deep breath, to each his own. You want to be whatever you want to be, but I mean, if you're born a certain, you should play it. Whatever you're born, to me, I feel like you should play in that space.
Is that really something that's controversial? Is that really something that should be considered edgy or crazy? No. That's reality. That's how 99.9% of people in this world think. That is the reality, but the mainstream sports media doesn't want you to think that. So when you have someone like Matt Barnes come out and say very frankly things like this, it's going to cause a meltdown. You know people are going to freak out. You know they're going to call him an ist, a phobe, all the same things that people who step out of line get called. But let's let him continue.
I feel like you should, because to me it's just, you see the swimmer and all this kind of stuff, and again, I'm pro, make your choice. Do you do this? But sports is different. You know what I mean? Sports is a different beast. I think you've seen a trans fighter too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just, to me, I don't like that. If you're born a woman, I think you should play women's sports. And if you're born a man, you should play man's sports. But if you want to be, you want to, do whatever you want to do with your life, I respect that. It's not my business. But, I just think the sports thing is just a little different.
And honestly, I think that's the way the vast majority of people think. Even if you don't agree with the lifestyle, even if you inherently disagree with people doing that, at the end of the day, it's their bodies, their life, whatever. If it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect me. But sports is different. You have sports where people have trained, women have trained their entire lives to be at the top of their game. But what happens? When all of a sudden an average male athlete comes in there? They destroy women's sports because these things, biology is a real thing. Men and women are not the same, and to pretend otherwise is nonsense. So to have someone come out and calmly say that, someone who's been in the NBA, someone who is now in the sports media, technically the mainstream sports media, it's pretty interesting. And he does go on to make the exact example of what would happen if a great NBA athlete came and played in the WNBA.
Well, yeah, you saw with the swimmer, ended up winning a championship on the women's side, where on the men's side, he was ranked like 150th
very
or something like that. And I've always said, imagine if Kevin Durant put on a wig and joined the WNBA. What would happen? It'd be like 100-0, every game.
It would change the whole dynamic of the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just to me, I just, again, to each his own, to respect, whatever personal decisions you want to make. But when it comes to sports, it's just, I think crossing that line is a line that shouldn't be crossed.
There it is. Very definitive from Matt Barnes. That's a line that simply shouldn't be crossed. It will be interesting to see some of the people that come after him for these simple statements saying, hey, I support your right to do whatever you want. I support you living that life, but sports is a different animal. Sports, it has to be a somewhat level playing field across these genders. Otherwise, it's just not right. So big shout out to Matt Barnes for being very frank and very honest about something that shouldn't be very controversial. But in today's day and age, with this woke mainstream media, there's certainly going to be some backlash for these comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.